Well, good afternoon. Anyone for a spot of dry fly fishing? See one or two trout here responding, very gentle rises. Must be a bit of a hatch, late hatch of olives coming down. But it's quite spasmodic. But this gives us the opportunity to try the dry fly. It's quite a nice one just there. I look of it anyway. I'm just going to watch for a while before I start fishing, and I'll go through the setup. Dry fly really is the, in principle, it's the most simple form of fly fishing. Floating fly, everything's in 2 dimensions. You don't need to worry about the depth that your fly's fishing because it's on the surface and that's that. And on the right piece of water, at the right time, it's absolutely the most fun you can possibly have. In my opinion anyway. Thing is, you've got to make use of the opportunities, because a lot more than 90% of the time, I'm not sure the exact statistic, but more than 90% of the time trout take the food from below, or probably actually on the bottom. So unless you live on a very prolific chalk stream in the south of England, in which case your fishing will be costing you appropriately, opportunities are limited and you've got to make hay while the sun shines, so to speak. There's enough fish rising here to give me a bit of encouragement, so let's give it a shot. There's a bit of a long-standing sort of snobbery thing about dry fly fishing. Probably harks back to the days of the glory days of the chalk streams and Holford and whatnot. It's always been thought of as a sort of southern posh chalk stream thing, and the wet fly, the sort of poor northerners and farmers and whatnot in north of England and Scotland and maybe Wales as well. More of a working class thing, the wet fly. But I don't know, I think there's always opportunities for fishing dry fly up here. You just got to pick your time right. And it can be quite spectacular, but I mean, there are a few anglers who favour the dry fly overall methods and pretty well exclusively fish that method. But I do like to ring the changes, and I like to, you know, I sort of relish each new season as it comes. So as we go into autumn, I'm not too sad. It's the end of the trout, but there's other opportunities open up. There's grayling on dry fly and nymph, there's coarse fishing, there's pike fly fishing, and it all comes round in a sort of glorious circle every year. Bit of dry fly floatant spray, sort of a rough olive pattern constructed from CDC. Doesn't look like much, but on the water it's very convincing as far as the trout are concerned. And just going to grease up the tip of the butt end of the leader near the fly line to ensure we get a nice floating presentation. That's me mucilin. And this is a product called Leader Sink, which is made in the north of England, and I smear a little bit of that on the other end, just back from the fly, to make sure that the little fine tippet doesn't float on the surface and give off reflections, giving away the fact that it's the fly is connected to a leader. And just go through the tackle. It's quite a long leader for this length of the rod. It's a 7-foot rod, and it's a sort of 10-11 foot leader. But that's including the tippet, which is just about manageable, and it gives me a bit of distance between the fly line and the fish. Yeah, so 7-foot rod, little lightweight fly reel, can be anything. It's only a cheap one, and it's a double taper 3-weight line. The fine end of the taper obviously attached to the leader, thick end of the taper halfway up the reel. So let's go and see if we can catch a fish. This is the time of year when most of the time I'm fishing nymph, or if there's a lot of water in, maybe streamer, because a lot of the time the fish aren't rising. That's not to say you can't catch fish on the dry fly when they're not rising. On a little stream like this, the trout are quite opportunistic, and they will occasionally come up for a fly randomly floating over the head. But that's something more of a thing you do in the summer, really, when they're rising for a lot more of the day and looking more upwards for the food. I'm going to start right across there under those old roots, and I think the majority of the activity seems to be sort of in the middle of the river, so I'll put a short cast out there and gradually extend it upstream. As you can see, at the moment there's nothing rising. 2 minutes ago there were maybe 4 or 5 fish working this little running on that foam line. At this time of the year, that's just the way it is. Rises can be quite spasmodic and random. So let's put this little olive out and see what happens. First cast quite close to me, and this is where a long leader comes in. It keeps the fly away from the fly line, so you're not scaring the fish with the shadow of the fly line. And there's the first one, little tiny one. Oh, I thought he was going to come off because he ran straight towards me. It's a barbless hook, so you've got to keep a tight line once he hooked, and once he runs towards you like that, it's very difficult. Just a little wee woodland brownie, and he likes that fly. He's taking it, and there he goes. Now that's a better fish just upstream, I've just noticed. Usually in little streams like this, the better fish tend to sort of hold station at the head of the pool. There's like a hierarchy, and the senior fish tends to occupy the place where they're going to get the most food and be at the safest. So the little thin water at the tail of the pool is where the little fish are, and there's a sort of a promotion of the trout as they get further up the pool. I was trying to explain then the reason for a long leader, and the other reason is that it sort of helps out with the drag. It gives you a drag-free drift for longer. And as you can see, even what looks like quite a straightforward pool like this, there's a multiplicity of currents. There's 2 or 3 main currents coming down there. So as you cast to the far current, there's a slack in between, and the line very rapidly develops into an S shape, and that will eventually start dragging the fly. So the longer you can hold that S shape off from dragging the fly, the better, and the way to achieve that is with a longer leader, plus casting a wiggly line, which we'll come to later. A wiggly line just means instead of trying to cast straight like you've been taught to, you actually pull the rod back just before the line drops, and the line develops a wiggle, which again gives you a little bit more drag-free time. It also stops you from striking too fast, which is one of the biggest problems with dry fly fishing when you've started it. You're trying to react instantly like you would with a nymph, and 9 times out of 10 you pull the fly straight out of the throat's mouth. Often you'll find that you get a rise, you didn't know it was to your fly, and you sort of hold back on striking, and that fish is usually quite well hooked because you've involuntarily allowed that pause. So we'll put it out there again. With that spray on, it should dry out pretty quickly. A few false casts, there we go. Again, there's several fish rising now, so let's put it over that key area there. And we must have got out of rhythm with the trouts riding. Oh, hang on, there we go. There's another. Oh, slightly bigger one, is it? Slightly stronger, I don't know. Yep. That was unexpected. That wasn't the fish I was looking at. It was a little way downstream. Well, that's a slightly better one. And they're in good shape now. Putting on weight, these trout. Yeah. Not a huge specimen, but not a bad one for here. And all completely wild. They've never been stocked, these fish. They've come down the river from the moorlands as the river got cleaner in the 1990s. Lovely. Back you go. The fly's getting quite waterlogged now. 2 fish in. And this is really enjoyable. I'd love to get that big one towards the head of the pool, but it's just a question of whether the little ones will get to the fly first, which often happens. Let's try for number 3. I've not even moved from the original position yet. I thought I'd be working my way up this pool, but so far they've both come from virtually the same spot, really. Brown trout aren't shoal fish, they tend to have their own territories. Grayling, completely different, and rainbow trout to some extent will shoal, but wild brown trout are solitary creatures, and you'll find them pretty well spread out through a pool normally, or a run, with their own strict territory that will chase intruders out of. Now that wavy line, or wiggly line, I'll just show you. Cast, jerk it back, and it lands, in that case, in a pile. Let's try again. Cast. Oh, that was a good one. That's a good one up there. And drop it down. Yeah, the better fish are definitely at the top end. I'm just going to move up slightly to the places very quietly. These fish are quite catchable if you can avoid frightening them. There we go. Again, a little one. Try and drag him out of the way quick before he spooks the others. I really want to get hold of that good fish at the head of the pool. That will absolutely make my day, if not my month. You get very cold Aprils sometimes, and when that happens it's often May before you get any serious dry fly fishing done. But this year it's been low water, and I think the water's warmed up a little bit more quickly than usual. Although we've been getting frost at night, that sunshine in the afternoons and the fact that there's not much flow has been warming it up. We have had a very slight rise. It did rain earlier today, and I think the river came up about maybe barely half an inch, but that can sometimes put that bit of extra oxygen into the water and really bring the fish up. That's a good fish there. Still seen there, right there to the pool. Let's see if we can go for him. Quite good going so far. I can see an olive dancing about. There we go. Oh, that's better, that's better. That's better. I can feel the power of that one. Oh, come on. And I've got him out of the way of the others. There might be another big one out there. Well, when I say big, he's not big, but he's big for this stream. He's wrapping himself up in the leader. Get into the net, volley him in. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's a nice trout for you. That's a good weighty trout for this stream. In fact, probably about, for most fish, that's probably as big as they ever get. Although he's not got that sort of big head and toothy jaw like an old fish has, so that's a relatively young fish. He will probably end up being quite a specimen. That's not an old fish, that. Good. Get back, mate. Off you go. Like I say, when you get a purple patch like this, you've really got to make the most of it, because it isn't always like this. One thing I don't really see in real time is the olives dancing about in front of the camera, which may or may not be obvious when I look back at the footage. I think that was the better fish I could see. It's all gone very quiet now. Like this probably is as much as you're going to get. There will be some fish moving right down on that slack water further down there, I don't doubt, but they're a lot more difficult to approach with that sort of mirror surface. Another couple of inches of water in the river and it'd be a different story. Let's try another pool. Oh boys, this is pretty bad news. A lot of line left by somebody in this undergrowth, ready to trap birds and what have you. Anyway, I'm going to put that in my bag and I'll dispose of it when I get home. I don't know whether that's an old set line. It looks like very heavy nylon. I think there's some poaching been going on. There's the last one. Oh, he's gone. He's off. Oh, gorgeous scene in the woods here. Oh, plenty more to come. I hope it's been to some degree educational and also entertaining. Very much enjoyed the session myself, and I think a fair bit of luck came into that, because it's not usually possible to catch 4 or 5 trout from the same spot on the dry fly when the water's this low. It is quite exceptional, outside mayfly time anyway. Thanks very much for watching. I really hope you'll come back and fish with me on another session. Maybe give us a subscription and a like. And like I say, see you on the next outing hopefully. Let's try a bigger river next time, or maybe a different one. Okay, all the best. Bye. Bye.